visionary, an entrepreneur, a business owner. You want to make money from your passion and create the freedom that you've dreamed of. But it's slow. The income is slow, the impact is slow, and the freedom is slow. And here's the kicker. You've actually never been busier. You're working longer than ever, burning through daylight, and your family have forgotten who you are. You're tired and frustrated and you can't even sleep well at night. The business just feels so heavy, and all you ever wanted to do was just make the money you want to make doing the things that you want to do. And that's where I come in. Hi, if we haven't met yet, my name is Dr. Brooklyn Storme, and I'm the host of the Business Acceleration Podcast, where we shift your business from heavy to light, time poor to time abundant, and from income lack to income growth. We're going to achieve it together with my 20 years experience as a psychologist, helping people just like you to break through their barriers. And we're going to throw in a little of the woo as well. So thank you so much for pushing play today. Let's begin. Hi guys, welcome to another episode of the Business Acceleration Podcast. Happy Saturday. I'm just going to share with you right now, this is about my 7th attempt at recording this because I'm just so excited to share things with you that I'm tripping all over myself and I'm getting myself distracted. So I'm going to take a breath and I'm just going to calm myself down. Basically, what happened was yesterday, a girlfriend and I went along to an entrepreneur summit and I just loved it. I had no idea what to expect, but I do like to do things like this every once in a while because otherwise I think you get a little bit stale as a coach or as a psychologist. So I think you have to go to things that are a little bit outside of your normal realm of operating. And so this summit wasn't anything to do with spirituality at all. It wasn't anything to do with your soul, but we did talk about truth. We did talk about finding your purpose. We did talk about mindset. And so for that reason, I came away from it with a lot. And I have written, they gave us notebooks to write in, and I filled up 2.5 notebooks. So you were in my mind when I was taking these notes because I wanted to be able to share with you the key takeaways as if you were there with me. So one of the things that I found really interesting was the presentation began with overview of which stage are you at in your business, and there were 3 stages that you could be in. The first one was a job stage, and that was when your JOB stands for just over broke. It's like if you're not working, you're not making money, and you're going to be broke. The second stage was called the business stage, and that's where I'm a part of the process of making money. People help me with my business. If you take a day off, you can come back to 1,000 emails that are all really critical. So it's that stage in your business where perhaps you've hired an admin person or virtual reception, or maybe you've got another contractor working with you part-time or something like that. But the business, you are still a critical component of that business. The business is still reliant on you. And then there was the third stage called the empire stage. And I've written in my notes, I'm not needed in my business at all at this point. You don't need to be there in the business. You are still a strategist though. So perhaps if you, take a holiday overseas and you see a service or a product that you think could be relevant and you want to improve it, or you get an idea you get inspired for something, you can send an email back home to whoever's looking after your business and say, hey, can you put this on the agenda for the next meeting, and can you look into this being a viable thing for us? So it's like you're still connected, but you're more overseeing everything rather than being in it. Okay. And then what comes after that is this whole concept of decisions. And so my psychologist friends are going to enjoy this, and I think my coaching and NLP friends will as well. But, sometimes we think, it's going to be fine because I have made a decision. And we learned yesterday that, there's a perspective that perhaps decision making is BS because you're always having the ability, capacity, and the opportunity to change your mind. And when I heard that, I thought, well, yeah, that's true. I changed my mind many times. Even before this podcast, I was flipping through my notebooks of notes here, and I was thinking, what's going to be, the most relevant to you today, and what should I share next time and the time after that, and what should I put on a blog post? And I too have gone through that process of, mucking around with my decisions this morning. But Decisions don't change your life because the reality is that you have so many options, okay? And the other thing that he was saying, his presenter was saying, was that also we happen to live in a first world country where if you make a decision and it doesn't work out for whatever reason, nothing overly bad is going to happen to you. He said, we're in a very good country that has so many supports for businesses and so many supports for the community and for citizens of the community, and nothing really bad is going to happen to us if the business doesn't work out, versus perhaps trying to start a new business in other countries where a lot of that support's not available. Okay, so I know there are many examples of supports we have that other countries don't, and one of the ones I used when I first started my business was the government. So this is in Victoria, Australia. I don't know if you have it in your area, but in Victoria, there's a small business bus and it travels around from suburb to suburb, and it comes down to the Mornington Peninsula, I think about 5 or 6 times a year, and it stays in the CBD here for about 3 days, and you can book online an hour consultation with a business planner or a financial planner or a small business guide, and you can take your plan, you can take your paperwork, you can discuss your branding, you can get all the help that you need, and it's totally free. That's one of the things that was really, really helpful for me when I was first starting because I didn't know what I was doing. But anyway, it's just an example of some of the supports that we have. Then we had to do this little experiment, and he said, think of something that you really want. Okay, so do it now. Maybe think of something that you really want. So for me, I'm going to think, I really want to be home with my dog. And then smile. And now when you've done that, your brain is giving you dopamine. Okay, decisions give you dopamine, and so you become, what he said, a dope addict, and you keep making more and more decisions. And it's not about the decisions. You need to really go much, much deeper and go beyond that decision and stop looking for that little hit of dopamine that you're receiving every time you make one. So he's saying that anytime you make a decision, it gives you a little rush, okay? It makes you feel really good. You think, yes, and that feels much better. And then he said that sometimes people find themselves constantly making decisions so that they can experience that little dopamine rush. But what he's suggesting is that we take that decision and actually turn that into a commitment. Okay, so if you want to change, what are you prepared to do to go from where you are now to where you want to be tomorrow? Without having commitment, you'll fall over when challenges arise, and they're going to arise, aren't they? We know that. So the process for creating traction in your business is really to decide one thing and decide it quickly. He also gave another example where he was meeting Richard Branson, and he asked Richard Branson a question. He said, can I ask you something? And Richard said, yes, anything. And then this guy says, how do you make decisions in business? And Richard Branson goes, quickly. So decide one thing, commit to it, and committing to it means, making a promise to yourself, taking action on following through with that decision that you've made. And that action shouldn't be anything small. It needs to be really immediate, and it needs to be something big. So if, for example, you are thinking that it might be time in your practice to hire someone, take action now. That's really big. Write a job ad, put it out, put yourself out there, update the website, take all of those steps. That's what they're saying. Another thing that was really interesting was to really have a think about what you as a practice owner or as a coach needs to do right now to move yourself from number 1 to number 2, from number 2 to number 3 in terms of those levels that we spoke about. So those levels were, just let me get back here, those levels were the job stage, the business stage, and the empire stage. Don't get too caught up on the language, I think empire is probably not something that psychologists and coaches will be using in their language every day, but I'm just sharing my notes with you about what was said yesterday. The other thing that was really interesting was he did a exercise, and There were 700 of us there in the room, and he said to us, okay, hands up everybody who wants to be a number 3. Hands up everybody who wants to have that time freedom and that financial freedom to still have the business and own it, but have other people doing most of the income producing activities so that you could have that lifestyle that you really want. So you could go and, I don't know, go to, like I am, go to Malta in a few weeks, or, take the family to Bali or something like that. And nearly everybody put their hand up. And then he said, hands up, keep your hand up if you're committed. And nearly everybody kept their hand up. I know I did. I kept my hand up. And then he said, okay, I'm going to do an experiment now, and the first person that can run down the back of the hall and touch a table at the back is going to get a special prize. 1, 2, 3, go. And only about 6 people went. And it was interesting because I thought to myself, oh yeah, I kind of know where this is going. And so I didn't. And then the other thing was, I was looking at my girlfriend's backpack on the floor and thought, oh, I'm going to trip over her. And there were 2 ladies sitting on the other side of her with their legs crossed. And I thought, oh, I'm going to trip over them, and it's just easier if I stay sitting down. So I stayed sitting down. And anyway, one of the girls, she wins and she gets some bottle of champagne. And he was sort of then using that as an example to say that, often people will only commit to action if they know they're going to get something. Because then he said, what if I said that there was a bottle of champagne up the back for everybody who got up and went down to the back of the hall? Who would go then? And everybody put their hand up. It looked to me like it was everybody from where I was sitting, but let's say 99% of the room put their hand up. They put their hand up. And then he said, this is the problem, that often people will only commit to taking action if they know they're going to get something. And I thought, oh yeah, okay, good point. And then he said, but that is not how business works. Some people avoid taking action so that they don't stand out, right? So like with me, sitting down, getting worried I was going to trip over, things that were in the aisle and, bump into people and make an idiot of myself, make a fool of myself, maybe fall over in the middle of the aisle as I was running down to the back hall. He's saying that sometimes people avoid taking action so that they don't stand out. But in business, you need to be able to stand up, you need to be able to stand out, and you need to do those things if you're going to succeed. And that makes so much sense because, let's imagine, coaching coaching is known to be what they call a saturated market. And I think around Australia, and I'm not so sure about other countries, you guys can let me know if I'm wrong, but I know in Australia there are certain pockets where we would say that psychologists are oversaturated. It's an oversaturated market. I know where I am on the Mornington Peninsula, there's I think the statistic was there was 1 psychologist for every 3 people. So it's really hard where I am to build a profitable and thriving private practice. I mean, I do it with my own techniques and my own ways. But if I didn't stand out, then there's no way I would have a fully booked diary, and there's no way I would be able to see so many people and create additional revenue streams. So it's really, really, really important that you find a way to stand out because it's going to make the difference for your business. The other thing that he said, which I think you'll understand based on your knowledge of psychology, is that your brain takes 4.7 seconds to make a decision and commit to it, to act now. He was kind of saying that, when you wake up in the morning and you set an intention before you go to bed to go to the gym, and let's say you're going to get up really early, you can get up at 5:30 to go to the gym. So you go to sleep on that thought. The alarm goes off at 5:30. Now, it's only going to take 4.7 seconds for you to actually get up, get out of bed and go on your way. If you stay in bed for longer than 4.7 seconds, there's a good chance that your mind is going to start to say, oh, it's really warm in bed and it's cold out there. Oh, is it raining out there? Oh, I don't want to be driving in that rain today, and, things like that. And so you can talk yourself out of doing the action that you already wanted to take. So if you want to make a change, your brain can sometimes say, oh, that's a risk. And the risk equals danger, and that danger can equal death. And we know that that's the role of ego, that's the role of ego. It's trying to keep you nice and safe. And we also know it's part of what's referred to as anxiety, and other practitioners refer to it as a process associated with reptilian brain. But your brain only allows you to change in very little increments. Okay, you're never going to be able to make a great big step. That's why when I'm talking to my clients about shifting their beliefs, I say to them, let's work out your limiting belief. We work that out. And I say, okay, now we've got that. What do we want to do with it? And I say, oh, do the opposite. I say, no, because the opposite is too far removed from what your brain is already comfortable with, what your brain already knows. You have to make small steps, small steps, small steps. Somebody I used to work with in my very first full-time paid job while I was at uni, I was working for the Brotherhood of St. Lawrence in their personal support program. And one of the ladies I was working with there, her name was Jan, she was a wealth of information. And one of the things she said to me was, do you think you could eat an elephant? And I said, no. And she said, well, what if I told you that you could? If we had the elephant and it was chopped up into little chunks and you just ate a chunk a day for as long as it took to eat that elephant, and you would have eaten that elephant, right? I was like, okay. But I get the point. The point is, when, big things seem big, but if you break them down into little bits, before you know it, you've done it. So doing things in little increments. You have that 4.7 seconds before ego kicks in, before reasoning kicks in, and those things will stop you from taking the action that you need to take to get the results that you really, 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 really want. Okay? The problem that a lot of private practice owners and coaches can experience is fear. Okay? And this was also interesting. So 700 people in the room, and he said, raise your hand if you've ever felt fear in your business. And I didn't see anybody not put their hand up. And that was really, really, I guess, comforting and reassuring in a way, to know that you're not alone, to be in a room full of 700 entrepreneurs, some of who were 6 and 7 figures already, all still raising their hands saying, yeah, I get scared in my business. People are feeling afraid of change, afraid of, doing something differently, even though they know that what they're doing now isn't really working. There's that fear of, well, what if I try something new and that doesn't work? Or what if I try something new and it does? What's that then going to mean? I think we see that fear pop up when we're talking about shifting fees and things like that, increasing your fees by $5 or $10. People get afraid of that. What's that going to mean then? Fear of success, fear of being judged, and that's a big one. I don't know anybody that I've worked with that hasn't had that fear of being judged by a client, judged by a team member, judged by a colleague. Fear of judgment is a real thing. But the thing is that you being different is scary, and there are going to be people that judge, and that's okay. When they take that judgment, and what's happened to me, I've been heckled and bullied and everything by colleagues, but the thing is that me being different or you being different is scary to them, because they're reacting to their own inner triggers. Okay, so it's not about you, it's just that if people are judging you, it's about them. It's something that has been triggered within them, and they're having, what you and I know as psychologists and coaches, a very normal reaction. That's fight or flight, isn't it? I think some of them choose fight. Their response is, oh no, Brooklyn's doing something a little bit different, or Jane's doing something a little bit different, or David's doing something a little bit different, and I don't like that, because what does that mean for me? And I'm not ready for this change, and I'm not ready for this, so I'm going to try and chop them down, and I'm going to try and discredit them, and I'm going to try and do this, that, and the other. And, it's okay. It's just part of that whole fear response, okay? So, yeah, it's absolutely your responsibility and your obligation to stand for something in your business, Okay, it's absolutely okay to do that. And I'll say it again, it's your responsibility and it's your obligation to stand for something in your business. You can't be everything to everyone. You can't say, if you're a psychologist, you can't say, oh, I treat anxiety, depression, autism, ADHD, marriage problems, relationship problems, school refusal, da da da. You can't be everything to everyone. Otherwise, when that doctor, for example, is sitting there with a patient and thinking, okay, where am I going to refer this patient to, and looks at his list of private practice owners, you're going to get lost in the white noise versus a private practice owner that says, hey, this is my jam. I really love working with children, and these are all the things I help children with: school refusal, assessments, school transition, bullying, peer relationships, da 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 da. And, of course, I accept other things as well, but this is my area of interest. You want to have that area of interest because then that doctor is going to go, oh, I know exactly who can help you. There's this lady over here and this is what she does. So, having your area of specialization. In Australia, for psychology, we can't say expertise and we can't call ourselves experts, but we can have our niches in psychology in Australia are called areas of interest or areas of specialization. So you can absolutely draw attention to your area of interest or your area of specialization, okay? And that is your niche area. And that's what you want to be talking most about most of the time. And you just make a small note, yes, we'll accept all referrals for these other types of mental health conditions too. But just so you know, this is like 90% of my work. This is what I really love to do. Okay, so stand up for something, stand out for something, be known for something. Okay, if you asked 10 clients or if you asked 10 referrers what your practice is known for or what your coaching business is known for, what do you think they'd say? Okay, so now I've got you to do that. Maybe you could think to yourself, what would you like them to say? What would you like them to say about you? Would you like them to say, oh, yes, I know ABC psychology. They work mostly with children and they do a lot of the behaviour work and they do behaviour support plans and they do cognitive testing and they do school assessments and school readiness assessments and they work with mums and dads and siblings to support little ones and everything. Or do you want them to go, the psychologists? All right, think about how you want to be known. And then step number 3 would be think about how you can build that awareness or build that reputation for yourself now. Okay, what would need to change in your messaging? What would need to change in your marketing? How would you need to show up differently? And this is the other thing. I've spoken to you many times about the Be, Do, Have model, and if you haven't learned about it yet, it was created by a guy called Zig Ziglar, and I am really familiar with it because his coach also coached me last year, which is why I had all of those big changes to the business and everything just kind of exploded really quickly. So it wasn't his coach, it was his mentor. So I had a session with his mentor last year. But the Be, Do, Have model is really around who you need to be. Okay, and what do you need to do in order to have the thing that you really, really want to have? So it's around identity first, and this fits really well with my approach, which is your business success is going to come from your inner world. It's going to come from your thoughts, from your beliefs, okay, from your behavior, from the actions that you choose to take, from what that little voice inside your mind says to itself. When you create those shifts from the inside, it allows you then to be who you need to be in order to get those results. And, recently, I think just this week, actually, I finished up with a coaching client of mine who I just love working with. She was able to make so many really, really, really big shifts, but all of those shifts were grounded on a Be, Do, Have model. They were grounded on helping her uncover for herself what any limiting beliefs were, helping her create ways where she might be able to change them, and then helping her to step into who does she need to be in order to have, those sorts of things that she wanted. And one of those things was fees, another one was around recruiting, another one was around having difficult conversations with people. And, at the end of the day, the action steps in that whole coaching program, which went for 90 days, were, I think she would probably agree, it was probably maybe 60 or 70% mindset, doing that inner work. And when she was able to do that, she was then able to change her experience in her business, which in spiritual terms we would say she changed her reality. In psychology we say, well, she changed her thinking to change her behavior and get a different outcome. It's the same stuff, just different language. So she now has bumped her fees. She feels good about that. She's now recruiting new team members, feeling better about that, And that other 20% or 30% was about the nuts and bolts. What are the structures that need to be put in place? What are the policies that she needs to put in place? What are the processes and procedures she needs to put in place? And then helping her create those. So the action, when you're working in your business, that actual action is such a small part of it. Nearly all of it is around the inner work. Okay, and then you get to a certain point and you think, okay, so I've made all these big shifts, like she has. I've made all these big shifts, I've made all these big transitions, but you don't stop there, because now you're aware there's a whole lot that you didn't know, and you're thinking, what else don't I know? And you're acutely aware of, oh wow, I really do need to make changes in my business, but I don't know what those changes are. I don't know what they need to be. And you might fluff around and talk to a few colleagues and see what they're doing, but you're always going to go back to, well, it was great to have that structure and support for those 90 days, and maybe I need that again, that individual support is just for me to help me continue on this journey, because it never stops. You're going to need to take more steps and put more things in place, aren't you? And this is your business, and it's always evolving and it's always growing. It's always a very, very beautiful thing. But again, this is an example of somebody who made a decision. She committed to that decision and she took action. And yes, she had her own fears. Fear of being judged, fear of failing, fear of succeeding. It's normal. We all had them. And that's okay. And we were able to work through them. And as a result of that, she said, big shifts. Really just so happy for her. She did amazing. So, yeah. The other thing is, without taking the action, like, what's the point? There are all those people who go and do courses, or they read all the books and then they don't actually do anything with that information. So there are absolutely things that you need to do, but make the decision, take really big action really, really quickly. If you've got a team member that's bothering you and it's not working out and it's on your mind, maybe you need to get rid of them, fire fast. Don't allow this to continue. Fire fast, get rid of it, get somebody new in. If you feel like you need to update your branding or update your website, do it now. Like, stop thinking about things, because otherwise you'll be umming and ahhing and toing and froing. Okay, it's called procrastination. We don't want to go down that path. So look, I have so much to share with you. I would absolutely, if this has resonated with you, hit apply for the 90-day program. It's in the show notes. But I want to leave you with this. You absolutely have permission to be more, have more, do more, to reinvent yourself, and you have permission to fail. It's not going to be wins, guys, all the way. It's not going to be wins every time you make a decision, but you need to give yourself permission to win. And you need to allow yourself to know that when you do that, when you have given yourself that permission, there'll be nothing that can hold you back from getting ahead in your private practice or in your coaching business. Okay? So thank you very, 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 very much for listening today. As I said, hit apply now in the show notes for the 90-day program. The doors don't open for a little while yet, but the applications are open now. And we can absolutely have a chat too if you like. I'll put the link to my calendar in there if you don't want to enroll for the program but you just want to have a chat. That would be amazing. I'd love to connect with you. Have a beautiful day and let me know what your biggest takeaway was from this episode. Bye guys. Thank you so much for listening today. I really hope that you enjoyed it and got a lot of value from it. Help me help others by sharing this podcast. And if you feel called to leave a review on Apple Podcasts, remember to let me know so that I can send you a very special thank you gift. Now go and build your dream business and I will see you next time. Bye.